Hi, I'm Darlene, and I'd like to invite you into an exercise that will actually help your relationships. We're designed for relationships. We're designed for love, to be in loving, supportive, encouraging relationships where we feel like we are known and we want to be known. We want to know others because there's something about feeling like you're so valuable that time is willing to be spent on you. When somebody remembers our name, when somebody remembers the details of our life, or when we're talking, they actually ask for more. Say more. Tell me about that. It's like they're not just waiting for our lips to stop moving so that they can speak, but they're genuinely interested. And it's not weird to want that kind of relationship with friends, family, coworkers, a romantic partner. It's not weird at all. We're designed for it. We're stronger, healthier, we do better when we're in those situations. We actually long to belong. So sometimes we'll do stuff, dumb stuff, to fit in. When we look back and go, why did I do that? Because we do better when we're together than when we're isolated. If we're with supportive people, we can accomplish incredible things. History's shown that over and over again. And we are wired to connect and stay connected. It actually physiologically hurts us to disconnect. And so when we have a hammer smash our toe, the same part of our brain that lights up in physical pain is the part of our brain that lights up in emotional or relational pain. When we're feeling betrayed or we're feeling misunderstood, when somebody we love dies or moves away, there's this ache inside. And sometimes people will talk about headaches or shoulder aches, back aches. Their heart will feel like it's literally breaking. Their legs will feel like it's on fire. And they'll say, nothing's wrong with me, Darlene. You explained why I'm in pain when it's a relational problem. It's because we can't separate our mind from our body, from our heart. Like we're one. And when our body hurts, our mind hurts and our brain hurts and vice versa. So taking care of our entire being is important, and it makes a difference in relationships. So sometimes we're hard on ourselves. Like, why did I let this person stay in my life as long as they did? Well, sometimes that's simply because we were uncomfortable with the idea of disconnecting because we're not really designed for that. Now, when we're talking about emotional vulnerabilities, these are some of the issues that come up in our lives. They're moments, there's experiences, and they're just feelings that sometimes we have no idea where they're coming from, that can actually start harming our relationships if we don't know how to deal with them. Part of emotional intelligence is being able to recognize what's going on inside and be able to respond appropriately, not take it out on others. So this is directly connected, handling our emotions, emotional regulation, handling our ability to respond to situations rather than simply react, really can impact our relationships significantly. If you've ever been around somebody who just takes everything out on you, and it's your responsibility to make them happy, or it's your responsibility to calm them down, or it's always your fault, that just shows that they really don't have a lot of emotional intelligence. And that might just describe a toddler in your life. But we all get an opportunity to grow up. There's a lot of vulnerable emotions we feel. These feelings leave us open to regretful behavior, hurting ourselves or others in the process, making things worse rather than better. So all of us experience these emotions. These are normal experiences in our lives. It's just that if we don't attend to them, they can take over. And if we let them take over, we're in trouble. But sometimes we want to just ignore them. Here are some of the emotions that we're going to make a game plan for. Boredom. When you're feeling bored, sometimes you end up doing things. I end up doing things that later on I regret. Lonely. Lonely is a real experience that everyone will have. In fact, it's so significant. There are some countries that have a minister in their government of loneliness. They're addressing the strong sense of people feeling isolated. Big difference between being alone and lonely. Lonely would be that drawing, that aching of wanting to be connected at that moment. Angry. Angry is not a comfortable feeling. We all kind of want to run away from that. And some of us end up doing so much regretful behavior, whether it's on the attack or it's on the defense. Some of us turn into, strange creatures. It's like, how did that happen? Where did that come from? And some of us just completely retreat. Thus, I call it the adult temper tantrum when you give another person the silent treatment. These are things that actually push people away from us and do harm to us then, because we're connected. We're wanting to be connected with people. So that's bored, lonely, angry. Then there's stressed. There's good stress that motivates us and gets us going. It's good. But then there's stress that feels like it's just too much. How do we react and respond when we're stressed? Then there's tired. And there can be a physical tired, and there can be an emotional tired or a mental tired, a weariness. Either way, whatever we're talking about, whatever kind of tired that you experience, sometimes again, we look back and go, why did I do that? Oh, I was overtired, or I was lacking sleep. I wish I hadn't done that. And then there's sad. So when we're sad, sometimes we do things again that we look back on, and we wish we had made another choice, a different choice. Essentially, these emotions, which are all really common to the human experience, leave us feeling kind of empty in our tank. We afterwards, if we don't handle them well, we end up moving backwards and feeling like, how did this happen? How did I end up on this loop over and over again? Well, it's because we didn't have a plan. So I'm going to invite you right now to go ahead and, on a sheet of paper that you find, you can pause this video, on a sheet of paper, find and write along the edge of the paper, the far left edge, BLASTS. Go ahead. When I'm bored, lonely, angry, stressed, tired. Now I'm going to invite you to put a negative sign at the top right, and then at the far top right, I'm going to invite you to put a positive sign, and a line between the two so you can differentiate. I'm going to invite you to go ahead and do a little bit of an inventory. You discovering you. And some of you feel like you know yourselves really well, and others of you are going to go, I've never thought about this before. That's okay. In fact, that's a great place to start, because now you're curious. And if you feel like you know yourself, then you're going to whip this thing off so quickly. Under the negative side, we're looking for behaviors and that you use, that you employ when you are feeling bored, lonely, angry, stressed, tired, and sad, and you don't want to feel those feelings. So to evade those feelings, what have you done that actually turned out to be a negative thing consistently? Not just one time that you tried it, but that you found out, wow, this really doesn't work. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to fill the side of negative with what do I do when these vulnerable feelings surface? Now, some people are going to write the same thing for all of them. Gaming, 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 gaming. Okay? Some people, fridge, 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 fridge. And that's fine. If you have something that you use for all of them, you can go ahead and put, this is your game plan. But I want you to start with what you have tried and doesn't work for you. Okay? So it would be something that might have worked for somebody else, but it doesn't work for you. In fact, it leaves you feeling emptier, leaves you feeling more distressed afterwards, or more tired or sadder, So rather than helping you look at what's going on, it actually pushes you further in or onto a whole nother set of problems that you didn't have when you started. So I'm going to ask you to pause this video. Go ahead, write out what things have you done when you're feeling these emotions that haven't worked for you. Welcome back. Now I'd like to invite you to go on to the positive side. Things that you have tried when you're feeling bored, lonely, angry, stressed, tired, or sad that do work. That doesn't mean you've stopped the feeling, but in the feeling, you are not choosing regretful behavior. So, for example, when I first did this list, I had nothing positive under stress. I had no things that ever worked for me. And I was quite shocked. I had a lot of things that didn't work that I did when I was stressed, and actually left me feeling more stressed and agitated and frustrated, and then sometimes pulled in other people and damaged relationships. or just, frustrated them as well. So if we're looking at the positive side, I had to go around and ask people, what do you do when you're stressed? I started Googling it. I started looking up, and I didn't assume that everything I would try would work for me because I'm unique, just like you are. And so what I found worked for me was writing lists. If I was stressed, I would just start writing down what I could do, or what to lower the stress, or what can I do to actually address where the stress is coming from. So that was one thing I did when in certain kinds of stress. When I was angry, I realized that something that really works for me is to go for a stomp, a stomp around the house. Just make a nice loud noise with my shoes and let everyone know this has nothing to do with everybody here, or do it when no one's around, and just stomp and vent and get it out. When I'm lonely, I find myself actually, one thing that does work is not to listen to really sad music that talks about how lonely I am. The blues is not a good choice for me when I'm feeling lonely, but to actually, I have some thank you cards ready for this time, and I will sit down and write somebody who either I know is lonely, and so I'm reaching out thinking about somebody else, or I write a thank you note and I address it to somebody who has been really great to me and I really appreciate. I'll also ask for a hug from my husband. Some of you are like, great, Darlene, nice. I don't have a husband. Thanks for rubbing that in. That's the point, is you want to go to somebody who's safe, somebody that you feel like you can ask, do you think I could have a hug? Or I'd like a nice long hug, not just little. Somebody that you can be that vulnerable with. Bored. And these are just one thing that, and I have now about 5 for stressed. I have about 10 for lonely and 10 for bored. And I mean, angry is still something I work through, but writing an angry letter, like, and just getting it all out, not on the computer, because then I don't actually use as much force. And when we're angry, a lot of blood is rushing to our hands. So I don't do that on the computer. Plus I might press send and then I'm roasted. I mean, it's going to get worse. So I'll just write it out, use all that energy to write it out, and then decide what I'm going to do with it. Am I going to talk to that person about it and coalesce it into something that's reasonable, and I'm going to say it in a respectful way so they'll respond better? Or do I just go, you know what, this is over and done. This is I've already tried many times. They're not changing. And then I get to decide to either let it go and shred it in the shredder, which is such a gratifying sound, right? Or burn it in a fire, or in a safe fire, throw it in the garbage, rip it up in little pieces, or whatever, to be able to just get it out of my system so it doesn't sit in there and I'm stuffing it. That only harms me. Whether we're lashing out or stuffing, both of those come with a pretty high cost. When we're going to tired, I mean, it depends, right? If I only have 5 minutes, what am I supposed to do when I'm tired? Well, I find if I'm between workshops, I'll lie on the ground, put my feet up on a chair. I mean, I could be in just a quiet little side room, and just that little bit of quiet and having the blood rushing to my head will give me enough energy to keep going. Eating something healthy, crunchy when I'm tired is a good idea, as opposed to things I've tried in the past, like having a chocolate bar when I'm tired, which only gives me, this little high for a moment, and then it's worse than ever. Water. I'm tired, drink water, hydrate. So some of you have already been doing these things, and that's great. What you do want, though, is to develop a list. Like, you want more and more and more, so that more on your list, so that when you are feeling vulnerable and you know that you're not very creative at that moment, you're able to grab your list that you made up of either things that others have suggested and you're going to try, or something that you're able to pull up and know, this is going to work for me. This is the kind of music I need to listen to. One woman at a recovery home I was working with, she in between presentations, she had a couple days, and she came back and said, hey, I made up a playlist for every one of these emotions, because I know that I'll just head up back into my addiction if I use what I used in the past to deal with these vulnerable emotions. So she took it really seriously, and I was so curious, and it actually got me going. So I realized that media can be really wonderful. Like we can create playlists, we can have go-to places, in terms of things that lighten our mood or allow us to really think about things. And it can also just completely waste time, so that we come to the end of that time and we feel like we've lost part of our day, or we've watched stuff that actually made us feel worse and grosser, you know. So those are the invitations I'm going to have for you to develop that, and to go around asking people, like, well, what do you do? Because what works for one person doesn't work for another. Some people say, oh, big bubble baths. I don't like sitting in my own dirt unless I'm, sick or something, or freezing cold. But generally speaking, when people talk about if they have a hot tub available, it's like, that's my go-to place. Well, what happens if you don't have a hot tub? So that's why you want many choices. Some will say, oh, you're feeling bored? Have a vacation. I'm like, okay, well, that might take a couple days. Or planning a vacation. I'm gonna sit here and plan my dream vacation, see how I can do it within the time allotted me or the budget allotted me. The sky's the limit in the things that leave you with a net positive. But if I don't make a plan, I'm setting myself up to just keep doing the same thing over again. And that definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. So if we want to be emotionally aware and intelligent, if we want to not crush people with our needs, instead augment our needs with people, then we need something like a blast list. So like, let's say lonely or angry, and you're feeling like, I need to talk to people. Well, not just any people, right? Because some people will head you down a path you don't want to go down. Some people will actually make the situation worse. So having a top, a top list of, maybe it's this person or this person, but if they're not available, I'm not just going to go to anybody, because then I can end up feeling more shut out. Yeah, this is a list of feelings that people have told me over the years that I've been doing this, that say, I've added this to my list because when I'm feeling ugly, I end up doing really dumb stuff, buying a whole bunch of cosmetics or something, that don't really help, and just, shoot up my credit card. So feeling ugly, stupid, unlovable, unwanted, those might be some of the things you want to put at the bottom of your list, because they're common things that kind of pop up. Whatever it is, you get to ask yourself, what do I do that actually doesn't help? And then what can I do to get a true perspective? And sometimes distracting for a little while until the feeling passes is not a bad idea. It's just how long, right? So you can spend 20 minutes on a series of really funny videos that you have set up with your favorite comedian or on your favorite channel. But then you can spend 3 hours and have regret, right? So we're looking at what actually fills your emotional tank, what works for you and what doesn't. And with this plan, you recognizing that there's some things that can harm us. So I mentioned an apple, or some water, versus a chocolate bar. So heading away from the fridge might be something that's really important for some of you, because you realized, I know what my go-to is, and I actually need to move towards things that help me. Again, nothing wrong with some ice cream on the side when you're feeling a little sad, but when it turns into a bucket, there's a problem, right? The choosing all the different social media, again, we can just try to escape our problem. And instead of maybe taking 20 minutes on something that's going to lift us up rather than pull us down, and then address it, big difference. A lot of people turn to pornography in times like that, and actually walk away feeling like that they're more alone, and they're more depressed, and they are sadder. That's what the studies show consistently. Or gaming. Hey, some people will say that is where I feel connected with people. If it is your constant go-to, it starts becoming a replacement for dealing with what's going on inside, and actually allowing for in-person relationships that are so healthy. So here are some of the suggestions from professionals that will say are consistent for just about everybody. Unless you hate all kinds of animals or aren't able to hug your goldfish, which is understandable, pets are a way to just kind of calm down. Even just watching pet videos shows that it changes people's blood pressure and heart rates. When they watch a cat like just spread out in the sunshine on a carpet, it just makes some people happy. Or the little goofy things with a duck and a goat, jumping around playing in a farmyard, like that actually changes people's moods depending on what we ingest. Then of course I mentioned music, but of course some music would actually, if we're paying attention to what's going on and how we feel during and after, increase the problem or cause us to feel even more vulnerable. And then at the top, there's a picture from where I live. We've got some beautiful places to walk and to run and to swim, and just even getting outside with some oxygen in our lungs, some clean oxygen, if you're in a place where you can do that. So important. Let's say you hate rain. There are things you can do. There's things you can watch about helping your emotions during that time. But let's say there's rain and you're going, I really wanted to go for a walk. Put on a raincoat, put on those boots, go and splash those puddles and kick those leaves. Something happens inside us when we're outside in creation. Making those decisions, though, are easier if we already have our list. If we're able to pull it up and go, okay, I told myself I'd do that. I know my journal is pretty full of it. And when we go through hard things in life, that's when we're not incredibly creative. And it's so helpful to know the things that work for us. So when people say, hey, what can I do for you? You can look at your list and say, well, you know what, right now, it looks like, I'd really like to go for a walk with you outside. I don't really want to talk a lot, but if you could come on over, take me for a walk. I need to get outside and I need to be with somebody I know cares about me. So that way you're able to help people love you better when you know what works for you. If you're able to say, this is just, these are my favorite, like soups just comfort me when I'm sad and things are going bad. If you could bring some soup over, that would be great. When people say anything I can do, they mean it. But if we don't give them ideas of what works when we're in a crisis situation, that just shows we don't know ourselves, and we also are not able to teach the people we love how to treat us when they really, really want to know how. Okay, I'm getting to the end here. Last question. This is just such a great question. Is what you're mentally ingesting making you a better you? Even when we're not feeling bored, lonely, anxious, stressed, tired, or sad, some of the things we're mentally ingesting, we're watching, we're listening to, are actually turning us into a version of ourselves we're not crazy about, or other people are not crazy about. And that's a tough question to ask myself, because dopamine hits are great. Feeling good in the moment from whatever I'm watching or reading or listening to in that moment can actually, distract me really well and make me feel good for the moment. What's the outcome? So this exercise requires a lot of courage, a lot of creativity, and a little bit of perseverance to go and ask people, what do you do? What do you think would be a good idea? And whether if you're in a classroom right now, you can go ahead and do some brainstorming together, because guaranteed there's some people that have very few things on the list for a certain emotion. And there are some people who have some great ideas that might work for you. So I guess the last thing I want to let you know is that feelings are like children. I heard that recently and I loved it. Feelings are like children and a car. You don't want them driving, right? But you also don't want to put them in the trunk of the car. Stuffing your feelings is a really bad idea. But like children, you want them in the back seat. They're not in charge, but they do get to flag, hey, need to pull over, need to go to the restroom, need something to eat, need some attention. And so when we have that understanding that they neither drive nor need to get stuffed, we can have a life that really is a little bit more fulfilling, where we can feel more confident that whatever is going to come at us, we have some skills to manage. We have a plan of action. And we're always learning and growing because we're changing and because we're allowing people to get to know us and discovering them as well. Hope you found this helpful. Enjoy making your blast list.